Terrorists, sex offenders and drug traffickers will have to serve their full jail terms after a dramatic federal intervention to stop the Victorian government discounting sentences because of the pandemic. To make sense of that, Matt Collins QC joins us. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So I assume these are for federal offences. The federal government has said you can't discount. Is this doable?
Yes, it's doable. So Australia doesn't have a federal prison system. So the state prisons house federal prisoners, and federal offences are things like terrorism and drug offences and money laundering, that kind of thing. So serious offences under laws passed by the federal parliament. But the federal prisoners end up in our state system, and the states have to make provision for them. But our Constitution, sorry, this is a bit of a legal lecture at 7:15 in the morning, our federal Constitution says that in the event of a conflict between a state law and a federal law, the federal law prevails. So the federal government can pass laws affecting the way in which federal prisoners are treated in state prisons.
So a federal prisoner that is in a state prison, do the feds pay the state for housing that prisoner?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm not sure is the answer.
Okay, so you got Terry the terrorist, all right, Matt? And the state government says you've had a bit of a tough time in prison because COVID's made jail tougher than we anticipated it was going to be for you. So we're going to give you 2 weeks off your sentence. How does the federal government intervene to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, first of all, there's state law under which prisoners are entitled to what are called emergency management days if there's something unforeseen or in the nature of an emergency, and COVID qualifies for that. They're entitled to apply, either individually or systemically, for a reduction of up to 4 days in their sentence for every day of disruption. So it's quite a big discount, potentially. That's just a provision of a state law, and in theory, there's no reason why our federal parliament couldn't pass a law saying that's inconsistent with the state law and which therefore trumps it by reason of our Constitution.
How often can one apply for a discount?
You can apply every time there's a disruption. Now, quite how it's been working during the pandemic is because it's a systemic position affecting all prisoners, it's had to be escalated to the Commissioner for Corrections, and so it's being dealt with sort of across the entirety of the system rather than on an individual basis. Ordinarily, if something happens, for example, there might be a fire in a prison and the prisoner is particularly helpful in dealing with the fire, that might be a ground on which the prisoner could apply for an individualised discount. But here you've got serious disruption across the whole of the network because, of course, people haven't been able to visit prisoners from time to time. They've been confined to their cells more than usually and so on.
Okay, so if I was sitting down plotting my career as a criminal, Matt, I'm sitting down, like career night at school.
As you do.
Right, as you do. I've been making a mental note to myself to only break state laws.
Well, it's the first time that the federal government has talked about intervening. So federal prisoners have been entitled to these discounts. And this is not something that came in because of COVID. It's been in our system forever. So this is something which is an unusual intervention from the federal government. It's pretty unusual for the feds to directly override a state law.
Right. It will be popular. You can see why they'd want to do it. Is it fair?
Well, I guess minds can differ about that. It's certainly an inconsistency. And generally, lawyers don't like inconsistencies in the way in which people are treated for the same, in respect of the same circumstances. As you say, though, you're talking about some crimes here. We're talking about terrorism and so on, very serious crimes. And as you say, it'll be popular. You just have to look at the front page of the Herald Sun today to see that newspaper effectively barracking for the federal position.
So Matt, will this require the feds to set up a new organ, a new office, in order to make this happen?
No, it's just a matter of requiring the states to comply with effectively a direction from the feds.
Right. Matt, lovely to chat with you as always.
Likewise.
Matt Collins QC.